if odour carries these messages, if evolution has shaped us so that we, at least in our past, perhaps today, can still detect them, and they carry benefits from detecting and behaving adaptively in response to them, the question you might be asking is, why then do we use perfumes? The quick answer that I always give is that, and it comes from Stoddart, is that our odour became unpleasant as a result of two things: wearing clothes and cooking, particularly cooking in confined spaces. So at that point, odour began to get more intense and less attractive. They tested individual perfume preferences for ingredients that might be used in a perfume for yourself or for a partner. So they asked these MHC type subjects to rate 18 perfume ingredients as a potential ingredient for a perfume for themselves, and secondly, as a potential ingredient for a perfume for a partner. What they found was that MHC type predicted their preferences for the ingredients in a perfume for themselves, not for their partner. What they take from this is that fragrances might be complementing body odour. We might be choosing our unconscious fragrance preferences might be in some way complementing our body odour. This is my odour space model for body odour, and how does fragrance fit in with it? And I think the traditional model here is that fragrances mask body odour, and it just eliminates the underlying body odour. So fragrances, denoted by the red dotted line here, stand outside of body odour. The body odour here in blue tries to get out. Some of it leaks out, but most of it doesn't. And what you smell is mainly the fragrance. That's the kind of the model, let's say. I think what we actually get is something where either one of these two, where the fragrance is kind of integral. It's become integral to the body odour in a sense, because people are choosing the fragrance to match their body odour. And what you get out of it is not the fragrance itself, but a blend of the two. I think that's where at least I am in thinking about this.
And thinking about our interest, which is fragrance, he just included two products where we would find importance, which was deodorant and a shower gel, where in fact in both cases fragrance, or the sense of smell, was the most important sense, and the sense of touch was the second most important sense. So we do live in a visually dominated society, but in the world where actually consumers are finding it more challenging, more difficult to differentiate between products on a basis of their performance, the more emotional aspects of links to brand and links to the more emotional perceptions of a product become more important, which gives you your brand and product, strong brand and product linkages. So within this consumer research, we asked consumers to smell different odours and then match them to colours. So for instance, here I've got a group of sweet, fruity odours, and they're matched to a number of different colours, all of which are red. And then we also asked them to talk about spontaneously the associations that they might make with those particular odours. And these are spontaneous, so it could be anything. It could be sensory associations, it could be memories, it could be products, any number of things. And with these particular types of odours, we have a response here which gives you an impression of warmth, of vitamins and health drinks, of cheerfulness and happiness. And so we've got an association here between concepts and colours and different types of odours.
I think something I forgot to say at the beginning that emphasises what this talk's about really. If you look at the human receptor gene, we've got about 900, I think, olfactory receptor genes. A lot of work is done on the mouse, which has got 1,500 or more olfactory receptor genes. So you think, this is a far more important sense for a mouse. But the important difference is that 900 in the human is connected to this amazing thing. That 1,500 in the mouse is connected to a mouse brain. Yeah? So it's really important you realise that what that brain is doing does not bear a direct relationship to the number of receptors that are out there, because as I said at the beginning, it goes beyond the physics and the chemistry. Really, just look at these top ones, because we're stroking the skin at a velocity that we know that these nerves that I've talked about that love to be stroked, they like to be stroked at about 5 centimetres per second, so you're activating these pleasure nerves. What the civet does is pull down the pleasantness of that touch, and this is significant, but it's elevating, but not significantly, how pleasant that touch is. And again, these are subtle cross-modal influences that are biasing your perceptual interactions with the world around you. Now, again, this is data that's being rated by someone, so they're having to rate how pleasant or unpleasant that touch is in the presence of these pleasant and unpleasant smells. But what Ilona is going to move on to do now is to run a functional neuroimaging study with the same experiment. And I bet that we will now see significant activation in brain structures that are processing a significant difference between pleasant smells and pleasant touch. Again, I don't know that, but I'm just building this argument that we are not best equipped to interrogate those emotional aspects of our lives. I'm not making a pitch here for neuroimaging, because Charles will say that there hasn't been one neuroimaging study in the world that showed you anything that he can't show from a behavioural experiment.
So we've just done some work. This really isn't kind of perfume bottles. It's kind of more like a sort of talcum powder or washing liquid bottles. But the idea is the same. Just about to come out in Food Quality and Preference with colleagues in Milan from the design school there. Take 12 bottles, fill them with some hand washing liquid, and then add some fragrance. Dragon's blood was the one that we used. Either 3 drops for a low intensity, 7 drops for a high intensity. Subjects come in, they open the bottles from left to right or vice versa, have to rate the intensity of this smell and how effective a hand clean do they think they would get from that product. And of course, as you add more fragrance, people say it smells more. That's obvious. But you'll see the bottles here, they're in kind of sort of saturation from white to sort of pink through red. And the colour of the bottle, people will say the fragrance is was more intense from the red bottles than from the pink bottles, which in turn, the intensity of the fragrance in those bottles is rated as significantly higher than in the white bottles. On top of that, half of these bottles have a lead weight submerged in them. You've got to pick them up, open them, smell them. How intense is the smell? And it turns out those bottles that have a 450 gram weight, the fragrance in those bottles is again rated as significantly higher than in exactly the same fragrance in a 350 gram bottle. And if you combine the saturated red colour with a heavier bottle, you'll get the most intense ratings of fragrance for the product. But it's dead easy to show. If you come to the lab, we'd give you a whole range of fragrances. It might be from the wine taster's kit, it might be from the coffee taster's kit, it might be a range of perfumes from some company. Sit you down in front of a virtual keyboard and say, is that fragrance more like that note, or is that fragrance more like that note? 13 possible choices, it's up to you. Sounds silly, just pick one. And is that fragrance more like a piano, or does it share something with that, or with woodwind, or with brass? It sounds stupid, but just do it. Get 20 people, get them to do it twice, and you find there are systematicities that people, all of us, 18 out of 20 of us, will match those kind of low notes, the caffeine, the coffee, the musky, the smoky notes with low frequency sounds, and the fruity notes, the sugary, the citric acid, the peppermint, with high pitched sounds. And if you know that, you can then start thinking about designing experiences that are based on this synesthetic matching that most of us share.
What we're going to do is we're going to understand that this product is not first and foremost about the taste. This product is first and foremost about the nose. Now, one of the crucial things about the nose, for the ladies who don't like it, is that at 43% proof, there's a lot of alcohol that comes out of it. So the first thing I want you to do is not go anywhere near it with your nose. I want you to take this bottle, and as perfumiers you all are, I want you to dab twice hope you're following the storyline here, 2 dabs and a dram. And I want you to rub it together. Now, live with it for a minute. Live with it. Let it breathe a little bit. Let it breathe a little bit. Now, imagine you're on a cold day in Islay and the Atlantic is whipping up a storm. And you're just going to cup your hand together, and you're just going to nose that storm coming in from the Atlantic. And you're going to remember that barley, that beautiful barley that was being cooked and infused by the peat. And in a few seconds, you're going to go back to Islay. I can see a young lady over there actually frowning at me and going, I'm not going anywhere on this basis. Now, what I would love you to get from this nose is I would love you to get a little bit of smokiness. I would love you to get that smokiness. And because the 15-year-old is 2 layers of beautiful oak, 1 white bourbon from North America, where this beautiful product has lain for 12 years. And then the remaining 3, we've moved it into European oak, which is sherry casks from Jerez. So as you smell this, I want you to get the next notes. I want you to understand a little bit of sweetness and vanilla coming through, because you've got 2 layers here. You've got a little bit of vanilla coming through on the basis of what was done in North America. And then you've got a little bit of that sweetness coming through from Jerez. You can feel the warmth coming through. And that warmth is something that is going to sustain you all the way home.